The news comes first. Live from KCRA3 News, we begin with breaking news.
That breaking news is in Nevada County. 8 backcountry skiers died in an avalanche yesterday morning about this time near Castle Peak in the Tahoe National Forest. One person is still missing, but that person is presumed dead. Thanks for joining us at noon. I'm Lisa Gonzalez. We have a lot to cover in what is now the deadliest avalanche in California history. A group of 15 skiers were out on a tour, a backcountry ski tour with Blackbird Mountain Guides. They left on Sunday. It was a 3-day trip. 4 of those people were ski guides, 11 were clients. They've been staying at the Frog Lake huts since Sunday. They were returning yesterday to the trailhead when that avalanche occurred. It was about 11:30 yesterday morning, so we're about 24 hours later now. We do know 6 people survived and they were rescued last night. Of the survivors, 4 were men, 2 were women, but we know 9 others did not make it. We've got live team coverage for you this noon hour on this breaking news. We first want to start with Melanie Wingo, who just got out of about a 50-minute long press conference with a lot of new information. Melanie?
It took them about 6 hours.
Yeah, and the most devastating part, Lisa, is that fact about that we now know those 9 people who were missing are presumed dead. 8 definitely confirmed dead by the sheriff's office today here in Nevada County. 1 person still unaccounted for, but certainly devastating news that just resulted from this news conference that started at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. We had the Nevada County Sheriff Shannon Moon speaking. Also, Placer County Sheriff Wayne Wu joined in, a representative from the Tahoe National Forest, and also someone from Cal OES, all speaking about the massive effort that went into trying to locate the people who were affected by this avalanche yesterday early, around 11:30 in the morning. And then there was a hours-long effort in order to even just get search and rescue teams to the location where they had learned that the avalanche had happened. And as we've been discussing throughout the morning here on KCRA3 News, and as our viewers who were with us during the news conference heard, it's an area near Castle Peak. There's a location called the Frog Lake Huts, and a lot of backcountry skiers, snowboarders, snowmobilers like to recreate in that area near Castle Peak. And that's where these people were on a guided mission with that the black country, excuse me, I want to make sure I get Blackbird Mountain Guide Company. And that is the company that had 4 guides leading 11 people who were recreationists. And they were going on this mission. It was a 3-day type mission. And then they were on their way back, Lisa. And that's when the avalanche happened. 6 people, as we know, have survived the devastation of having gone through an avalanche, and then they managed to bring search and rescue teams to 3 people who they found immediately after the avalanche happened. And then it was at that point that search and rescue team members were able to find the additional people who we now know have died as a result of this avalanche. I should mention that 2 people out of the 6 who survived the avalanche were taken to area hospitals. They have what are described as non-life-threatening injuries, but they are being treated for those injuries. Still, such a really unfortunate and heartbreaking bit of news today that we received, that 9 people are presumed dead after this avalanche. 8 people accounted for, 1 still unaccounted for after the avalanche. So, Lisa, certainly a punch to the gut when it was revealed by Nevada County Sheriff Shannon Moon that, in fact, we now know that we have a recovery mission on their hands that they're attending to at this point.
And I heard you, Melanie, in there asking questions because I think we were all hopeful that as we got those emails last night at 10:49 p.m., as you mentioned, you know, we thought they were still in a rescue mission, but, you know, obviously they needed to talk to family first, and that's why they didn't let us know that it had turned to a recovery mission. And I think we were just all hopeful going into the night, going into the morning, hoping that the news would be different. But as you said, it's just a punch to the gut that we know this is just a recovery mission, and that 8 dead dead, possibly 9 dead, since that one missing is presumed dead at this point. Melanie, also they just talked about, you mentioned that when they did rescue the people, 2 of them were injured, and then they couldn't walk, so they had to somehow get those 2 injured people who couldn't walk, back to the Snowcats, which was 2 miles away in this really deep snow, in this horrible storm that was happening with gale force winds.
Yes, and that is something that they touched on quite a bit during the news conference that just wrapped up. And we're talking about just getting in to help the people we know survived was such a behemoth task. They had to snowcat in, and then the search and rescue team members skied an additional 2 miles to the survivors. The survivors who were able to walk out did. 4 of them did. 2 of the survivors had to be assisted. But when you talk about not even being able to get Snowcat vehicles down to the location where they could potentially help those people and bring them out in an easier fashion. We're talking about rough, rugged terrain. That's what the sheriff described it as. And then you're not only dealing with the rough, rugged, remote terrain, you're also dealing with the complicating factors of the weather conditions. And I know our meteorology team for KCRA3 had predicted that this would be a really whopper of a storm system that was going to be coming through. And they were looking at it a week in advance, taking a look at the storm track and realizing that the biggest wallop from it would be happening, at the early part of this week. And that's what the sheriff's office also touched on. It's this risk that people do take, and with much respect to people who have lost their lives in all of this. The sheriff's office did caution people to know the conditions, to know the terrain, to know the weather patterns, and to also check the Sierra Avalanche Center's website in advance of trying to tackle any of these backcountry ski excursions or snowmobiling excursions. As you'll recall, earlier this year we had a snowmobiler fatality in that same area, Lisa, the Castle Peak area. So it is a known difficult bit of terrain, and then when you complicate matters with the really rough weather conditions that we saw and the whiteout conditions that we experienced yesterday and that searchers had to contend with as they tried to retrieve and rescue people, and then also realize that they had a recovery mission on their hands. It's just a lot that they are having to deal with in this time. And we also learned that one of the members of the Placer County, or we learned from the Placer County Sheriff that one of the search and rescue team members has also had one of their family members as a victim in all of this. So it's personal for some of these searchers out here.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely personal. Yeah, it is indeed. One of the missing is a spouse of one of the rescue team members of the Tahoe Nordic Search and Rescue Team, which is, the best in the state, maybe possibly the country. So that's got to be extra difficult, knowing what kind of conditions they were going out in. And you mentioned, especially last night, I mean, they were whiteout conditions. It was sideways blowing snow. It's dark. You can't even see where you're going. So to try and help the 2 people out that couldn't walk those 2 miles and the other 4 was just quite an undertaking that they did. And we know why they did it. It's just such a sad discovery today, as we're all learning about how many people died in this, making it the deadliest avalanche in state history. Melanie Wingo, thank you so much for your live report.